Fantasy fanfiction. The end is coming, fortunately I have a Doomsday simulator. Chapter 11. Another. Change another one. Can this type of boxing really hit people? Mr. Zhang, I want to learn the real thing. Mr. Zhang, can you show me that? Mr. Zhang. After I do not know how many times I was thirsty for knowledge, Zhang Qingshe, who was dripping with sweat on her forehead, finally couldn't help but stop her hand. Are you here to find fault? She looked bad. Hearing this, Lin shyly smiled, and then said seriously, no, it's just the so-called martial arts that you showed me, Teacher Zhang. I always thought it was a bit too flashy and unreal. Although the force is still clear, but there are too many wasteful movements, or maybe I didn't understand it. Seeing Lin say this, his expression is still serious, plus he paid for a class in advance. Maybe because of the latter, although Zhang Qingshe was a little annoyed at the moment, he still maintained his attitude. Martial arts routines are like this. It may be a bit flashy to fight with people normally, but in ancient times, the purpose of this step was to raise the opponent's weapon, avoid the edge, and enter the interior, around. Destroy the enemy's center of gravity, and then use progressive punches or elbows to hit people. After Zhang Qingshe finished talking about the key points she knew, Lin looked at her thoughtfully for a while, and then said, it makes sense, but these moves are still too loose and a bit limited in form. The so-called routine is to develop muscle memory and use it when it comes to the critical moment. Zhang Qingshe explained patiently, and he just sighed inwardly for his finding fault questions. What Lin said is not completely unreasonable, but if you really want to learn the kung fu of beating people, who would come to the martial arts gym these days? There are various martial arts routines, some of them seem flashy, but in fact they are all really good kung fu. But some actions are specially designed to deal with various cold weapons, some are to cooperate with some unpopular weapons, and some are more from the original army, born in. If it is just modern fighting, these moves are naturally pure waste moves. Lin was a little disappointed with these boxing routines, even though some of them inspired him a lot, but if these dead routines really fall into actual combat, they are actually his own instinctive reactions. For example, in the routine just now, the step up and pick up the progressive hammer is actually a variant of the progressive elbow lift that he avoided the high sweep kick in the boxing gym just now, but it is not as simple and clear as his own. Everything is perfect, and when you understand the principle, you don't need to learn any more. Is there a weapon routine? Lin spoke suddenly. There is no need to practice the boxing routine, but Lin is still blank on the weapon routine. There are a lot of fighting videos on the internet, but the weapon routines obviously cannot be compared together. When the Doomsday came, Lin naturally didn't plan to fight zombies with his bare hands. If there was a wound on his hand and it was stained with zombie blood, he might be dead. Therefore, fighting with cold weapons is obviously the best choice. I only know 3 swordsmanship routines, 4 swordsmanship routines, 2 marksmanship and 1 stick. The most proficient is the Miaodao routine passed down by my family. Zhang Qingshe stretched out her hand to wipe the sweat off her forehead, and said blankly, do you want to learn weapons? I want to see. Lin nodded. I have to pay more. Zhang Qingshe stared into his eyes. In fact, she didn't want to teach anymore. It's like a game booster. Originally, he received a list of accompaniment players, and he was not a professional booster. However, the object of the accompaniment was opened the spring and forced Lai Lai at the same time. Are you going to play? You are playing this wrong. Single quote. Didn't he die with your skill just now? Single quote. No, you are too rigid. Single quote. Regardless of the level of this companion, being told that, the mentality is not much better. If it wasn't for Lin's appearance, it really wasn't intentional to find trouble, Zhang Qingshe would have given up the money long ago. Add another 500 and you will teach me. Before Zhang Qingshe refused, Lin took out his mobile phone and initiated the transfer. Zhang Qingshe opened her mouth, but in the end she didn't say anything, she just sighed. Okay, if you want to learn, I'll teach you. It's like collecting money to perform a routine. Anyway, since I was a child, I participated in various martial arts competitions, and didn't it show the routines one by one? Just as you learn from the past. At least he gave more money. Not shivering. Wait a minute, I'll get it. After Zhang Qingshe finished speaking, she turned her head and walked out of the practice room. After a while, she walked in with a box of bellowing weapons. You stand aside and I'll beat you one by one. After hesitating for a while, she picked up a long sword first, pulled out the scabbard, and was posing, but suddenly turned her head and looked at Lin and with a serious face, with a hint of helplessness in her tone. If there is a problem, wait until I finish playing, okay? Her voice was as cold as ever, but Lin still understood what she meant, or, in fact, it was the feeling of depression in her heart, which was captured by his talent of mind reader, which was always good and bad. Nodding, he smiled and drew a zipper on his mouth. So, Lin watched her play a sword indoors. After just a few minutes, she pulled up her sword and stood up. Looking at Lin, she hesitated for a while, and after taking a few breaths, she said, "Just ask." It's a bit of a taste of generosity. What is the purpose of the first move? Lin began to ask each move one by one. Zhang Qingshui's explanation was fairly detailed, but soon, she was caught up in Lin's endless questions, so she couldn't help but stretch out her hand to help her forehead. Brother, you, don't ask. There are some moves, I really don't know what they are for. The routines are just like that. They won't let you change them during the martial arts routine exam. Don't ask me if your thoughts are right or not. I haven't practiced according to your thoughts, and I haven't cut someone with a sword. I really can't explain it. Forget it, don't look at swordsmanship. Practicing Miao Dao, I'm familiar with that thing. If you really want to cut people, I can use this method. Zhang Qingshui took it. She feels that she is usually quite aloof and cold, and her mentality is very good. No matter how many things she encounters on weekdays, she seldom has such big mood swings. But she had never been asked that. How many times have I said it? Martial arts routines are all physical and can be used in actual combat, but they are of little significance. In modern society, who practice cold weapon combat, you are a real punishment. She threw the long sword into the box, and then took out a long seedling knife. Lin had seen a movie called Embroidered Spring Knife before, in which the supporting character Ding Shu used it to overturn a group of cavalry by himself. Even if it was not reasonable in reality, it fully demonstrated the purpose of this knife. Advantage. Attached to the hilt, it has a length of almost 1 meter 6. Just looking at it makes people feel that this thing is mighty. Growth and size not only represent power, but also represent safety. If you can cut off the heads of zombies from a distance, wouldn't it also reduce your chance of being infected? She looked at her practice room, and after estimating the distance, she stood in the center. Be careful, stand in the corner. Lin is very obedient, and he always attaches great importance to his own safety. Soon, Lin's eyes lit up. In the practice room, Zhang Qingshui seemed to have a slender body, but her movements were very ferocious and fast. A Miao Dao chopped loudly in the air, and her body spun around with the blade. The huge Miao Dao almost made her several meters around her body and looked like it was difficult to move an inch. And her appearance as a female swordsman is even more heroic and extraordinary, like the heroine in the picture jumping out of the painting. This Miao Dao seems to be really messed up. If there is any problem, it can be said now. After hitting a whole set of Miao Dao, although Zhang Qingshui still maintained her indifferent face, Lin could faintly hear the turbulence in her heart. If you find fault again, I'll let you try for yourself whether this Miao Dao can cut people. Single quote. Vaguely, he seemed to hear what she said in her heart. The talent of this mind reader is really unexpectedly useful. Teach me to play again. Lin stretched out her hand and motioned her to give her the Miao Dao to play with. Zhang Qingshui was about to open her mouth to refuse, but then she thought about it. This person likes to pick on pricks. The length of this Miao Dao is 1 meter 6. For ordinary people who do not understand swordsmanship, let alone practice swordsmanship routines, people who are tired can sweat profusely just by putting on a posture. Might as well let him try it and let him know that even if it is a routine, martial arts is not so easy to practice. Zhang Qingshui turned the hilt of the knife towards him, and repeatedly warned, I can teach you, but you have to remember that this knife can really hurt people. Even if my knife didn't have a sharp edge, it was quite heavy when I made it. If you flail around, not to mention hitting me, you're hitting yourself, ranging from bruises at light to bones in severe cases. Lin took over the handle of the knife, only to feel that the weight in his hand is really good, not to mention the light weight, just lifting one hand feels a little clumsy. I see, I'll take it slow, you just teach me. Linen didn't care too much, and carefully followed what he had just seen before, posing a starting position with both hands holding a knife. Zhang Qingshe raised her brows and made a small voice, huh? You don't have to learn how to hold a knife. You and I have different arm spans, shoulder widths and heights. You don't need to move your front hands, and you can hold your back hands farther away. Zhang Qingshui's voice fell, and Linen guessed and felt the movement of holding the knife a few times, and soon found a comfortable position for holding the knife. Practice. She narrowed her eyes. Linen shook his head, Miao Dao's first time. He didn't say that he had never practiced weapons at all. It was the first time in his life that he had touched a real cold weapon. Afraid of hitting her badly. The first move. I always feel like there is something wrong with this guy. Zhang Qingshe blinked suspiciously, and took a long sword in his hand. Anyway, it was just to practice his posture, let him take a look first, and then correct his movements. Linen watched her movements attentively, and then slowly played the routine again. During the period, if the movements were not standard, Zhang Qingshe would also correct it aloud. The body seems to be saying, I remember. I'll try it myself. After Linen finished speaking, he saw Zhang Qingshe take a few steps back, and frowned and said, don't be in a hurry, if the knife flies out of your hand, it won't cost a few $100s. Don't break my room. Although she said that, she didn't stop her, and Linen practiced by herself. Miao Dao, a weapon like this, really fights, half of the strength, the other half of the power actually comes from inertia. The faster you hit, the weight of the weapon itself will bring greater inertia. With the help of this inertial force, you can not only reduce the energy consumption, but also increase the power. On the contrary, the slower you play, the more you test your physical fitness. Arm strength is the most important, followed by core strength. Linen was playing slowly. He had only practiced twice before, and he was sweating all over his body. At this moment, he was playing slowly by himself, and he felt that all the muscles in his body were moving. Compared to being tired, he felt more refreshed. It's more efficient than just doing push-ups. He had only eaten his stomach before he came, and at this moment it seemed like he couldn't run out of energy. He finished the fight slowly, and without waiting for Zhang Qingshe to make a sound, he quickened his speed and came again. By the third time, Zhang Qingshe had already looked straight. The more Linen fights, the more enjoyable it is. It was originally a fixed routine. When it came to the third time, he completely surrendered to his instinct. It seemed that there were enemies with weapons one after another. His swords were flying like a dragon hovering in the air. The enemies he meditated on were like mustards, and he was easily cut into two pieces. The wind was loud, and this Miao Dao seemed to be an extension of his siblings. After the third round, he did not stop, sometimes turning around with the Miao Dao and sweeping, and sometimes bowing abruptly and provoking, jumping and slashing. It has nothing to do with the Zhang family's Miao Dao routine. Zhang Qingshe was entangled and wanted to stop him, but inexplicably, from the shadow of the knife he played, she could see a completely different charm from before. Compared with the moves she had practiced before, Lin An's knife technique became more concise and clear. Meanwhile, but it suddenly made her feel a sense, this is what the so-called killing swordsmanship looks like. Originally, some parts of her swordsmanship that looked a little fancy were missing, leaving only the most concise way of exerting force and the fastest slashing method. A Miao Dao swung like a windmill, and while spinning, with the help of inertia, Linen was not a tyrannical force at this time, but it shot several times the lethality. When Linen stopped gasping for breath, carrying the Miao Dao, and closed his eyes to feel the summary, the simple white half-sleeves were already soaked with sweat, and the muscles were clearly defined, and it was a bit. Zhang Qingshe looked away involuntarily. Have you really never practiced Miao Dao? Linen put down the Miao Dao with some fondness, picked up the scabbard that had been placed in the corner before, and put it back into the scabbard. Yeah, I really didn't expect this Miao Dao to be so happy wielding it. He was sweating all over at the moment, but he didn't feel tired at all. His heartbeat was very fast, but he didn't feel breathless at all. Instead, his blood was surging all over his body, which made him have the urge to fight someone. Linen finally couldn't hold back. Can you practice with me? Use a wooden knife or something, you should have it here, right? Zhang Qingshui's eyes widened slightly, and the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. Actual combat. I'm sorry, She didn't finish her sentence. Linen suddenly interrupted her and stretched out a finger. I will tell you a number, 10,000 yuan, as long as you are willing to accompany me to practice knives. I will try my best to avoid all possible injuries. If I accidentally injure you, the medical bill will be charged separately. His eyes were filled with impatient color. Zhang Qingshui froze in place. She opened her mouth no. Finally, he lowered his head, gritted his teeth, and said a cold sentence. Then let's try and click until we reach it. 10 minutes later, Zhang Qingshui and Linen, holding wooden seedling knives, appeared in a remote corner of the park in the county seat. When Zhang Qingshui held the Miao Dao and looked at Linen, who was eager to try, a trance flashed in his eyes. How did this happen suddenly? After a mobile phone transfer screen flashed in my head. Zhang Qingshui let out a sigh of relief, and a trace of indifference flashed in her eyes as if she had been played badly. No way, he gave. Too much. Asterisk. Come again. Try again. The last time. What happened was a little different from what Linen thought. The above mentioned, one more time, was not Linen who was addicted to martial arts, but Zhang Qingshui, who was reluctant at first. In the first competition, after 3 moves, Lin An's wooden knife was placed on her neck. In the second competition, 2 moves, one knife cut off Zhang Qingshui's arm, and the second knife slashed her waist in a circle. Even if Lin An deliberately withdrew his strength when he hit, but the length of the wooden seedling knife was there, no matter how hard he tried, it was a red mark. The third competition, 1 move, Lin An saw through Zhang Qingshui's knife path the moment she made the knife. The knife made a dangerous move, bowed and raised her backhand, avoiding the knife, and pushed the tip of the knife from bottom to top. Zhang Qingshui chin up. Zhang Qingshui almost hit her neck. The fourth time, Lin An slashed the wooden knife in her hand with one knife. The Miao knife is long, but it is easy to break if it is too hard. Even if it is a wooden knife, as long as you find the weak part in the middle, and chop hard, you will also split the wooden knife in half. Then, Zhang Qingshui never said anything again. She stood there blankly, her expression full of doubts about life. It's not that Zhang Qingshui was not prepared to be beaten. In fact, she was mentally prepared before, thinking that Lin An 80% has practiced other swordsmanship, maybe even the so-called Wu idiot, on the internet, and likes to study some very punishment, martial arts routine. Maybe I have fought many times in actual combat early on. Can't beat it. However, she never thought of it. He was really such a waste. Zhang Qingshui looked at Lin An with mixed feelings. I have practiced martial arts for many years, and I can't say that I am wholehearted, but I can say that I am serious and hardworking. Single quote. Even in my heart, I feel that most of these so-called martial arts are just physical fitness, and they are part of cultural heritage. Single quote. But I don't want to practice anymore, I'll give you the money back. Zhang Qingshui put down the wooden knife, and her eyes were covered with a little mist. In the novels of martial arts or immortality, she said at the moment that she was also broken Taoist heart. After practicing for so many years, I was cleaned up like being abused by others. What are you practicing? What kind of martial arts do you open? Are you misleading your children? Lin An was a little embarrassed. He also wanted to keep his hands, but when the fight started, he was always thinking about how to improve his swordsmanship. This improvement, she couldn't hold it. Don't go back. Lin An is not interested in money, let alone 10,000 yuan, even if all the hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank card are burnt. It's fine, just find some kind-hearted big brothers to borrow it and it's done. Seeing Zhang Qingshui's dejected appearance, Lin An felt a little uneasy in his heart, and thought in another position, who believed that he was trained in a few hours. His move is like a peer stepping on the spot and kicking the gym in disguise. Zhang Qingshui didn't scold him for deliberately finding fault, or pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger to bully others, which was enough to show that she was still a good and reasonable person. Of course, if that's the case, Lin An is probably just apologizing, but Zhang Qingshui still needs to make friends after all. If there is no accident, when the end times come, she can mutate and evolve. Compared with Lin An, who can only be a reckless man, at present, the power she possesses is not tasteless. Linen still remembers that when she was simulating today, after being besieged to death by a flock of birds, she suddenly exploded with a force similar to a mental shock, and instantly crushed the flock of birds. If this kind of power can be exploited and utilized properly, it will be very useful even if it is not a tool for him. Not to mention, she is quite beautiful. Even if Linen doesn't have the slightest fascination at the moment, it would be better than being alone if he could have a beautiful girl to accompany him in the apocalypse. Zhang Qingshe, you don't have to think too much. You practice martial arts routines. When you fight, you are also thinking about learning martial arts. To put it bluntly, you are thinking about how to cut talents and pick up the Miao Dao. Linen walked side by side with her, and said a few words of relief. I'm not boasting, but I don't have anyone to think about fighting with cold weapons now. You usually don't practice knives to fight people, right? Bar. Zhang Qingshe was expressionless, gritted her teeth and remained calm. You are indeed very strong. You used to call me Teacher Zhang, but now you beat me up, and you call me Zhang Qingshe. Who are you? I'm treating you to dinner, and I want to ask you for help with something else. Linen didn't write any ink. He picked his mind and said, I want to get a serious Miao Dao. One is not enough, maybe 2 or 3, it must be available within a week. Do you have any ideas? Yes. Zhang Qingshe took a few deep breaths, temporarily suppressing the depression in her heart, and looked at him calmly. But I have to remind you that we are now a society ruled by law. Linen smiled. I know. Zhang Qingshe glanced at him, thinking in his heart that if this person lived in ancient times, he would probably be a big murderer. You don't need to eat. You gave me so much money today, just use it as money to buy knives. I don't want that kind of performance routine. It has to be durable, and it's better to be bigger than yours. 1.7 meters long may be more suitable for my height. The weight has to be added, preferably twice as much as you are now. The more Zhang Qingshe listened, the more she felt that something was wrong. She stopped and took 2 steps back cautiously. What the hell are you going to use this knife for? Wouldn't he really be planning to kill someone? Linen heard the words and just smiled kindly. Don't get me wrong, I'm really a good person. Well, let's have a meal together. I've been practicing for so long, and I'm hungry too. I'm offended today, but I think, after all, there are many friends and many paths, so there's no need for everyone to forget about each other, right? Quote. Zhang Qingshe refused a few times at first, but for some reason, Linen seemed to be able to hear what she was thinking. A few words calmed her down and changed her opinion of him. Even after chatting all the way back to the martial arts hall, Linen was already chatting and laughing with her, and he looked like a friend for many years. It was strange to say that he really seemed to be able to read her mind and poked every word during the chat. When it came to her heart, it was like a bosom friend, making her feel that the two really got along well. Not only did she agree to finish dinner with him, but she even agreed in a confused way about getting a knife. It wasn't until the two found a restaurant to eat and drink, exchanged contact information, and went back to their respective homes. Zhang Qingshe sat on the sofa at home and sorted out what happened today. After sorting out her thoughts, she covered her face in confusion, fell into sluggishness. This guy is poisonous. Did he drug himself? Open black lens bracket. Doomsday simulator has been opened. Close black lens bracket. Current optional talents: the wise, dangerous intuition. Please select up to 3 of the above talents and start the Doomsday simulation. Close black lens bracket. Almost during the last simulation before going to bed, Lin An's eyes finally stopped on the talent selection list. He let out a light sigh and smiled. This time, it seems to be a little tricky. Although the talents he looks at are only blue, they are surprisingly powerful when combined. Then try it. The current talents are as follows. Martial God Golden. You are very sensitive to martial arts, you are self-taught in combat, your physical fitness is extremely high, and your progress is extremely rapid. Close black lens bracket. Mind Reader Purple. You are very good at reading other people's hearts and seeing the real side of them under their disguised masks. Close black lens bracket. Wise Blue. Your IQ is good, you are good at thinking, and you can draw high-quality conclusions from known intelligence and knowledge. Close black lens bracket. Dangerous Intuition Blue. You have an intuition that is beyond ordinary people, and can sense dangers that are difficult for ordinary people to detect. Close black lens bracket. Detective Blue, you are very good at capturing clues, good at reasoning and discovery. Close black lens bracket. Because Linen has solidified the Valkyrie and the Mind Reader, this time with 3 optional talents, the talents he carries during the simulation are as many as 5. And the 3 blue talents in the back, if not unexpected, can also cooperate with each other, which can be said to be very worth looking forward to. Linen watched the simulation process with great interest while packing up and getting ready to sleep. Simulation starts. Day 1. The Doomsday is coming, you are ready to exercise calmly in the private shelter prepared in advance. Close black lens bracket. The next day, you heard the gunshots of the army outside, but you had a plan and didn't want to participate in it and continued to exercise. Close black lens bracket. The third day, you left the shelter alone and used the weapons prepared in advance to clean up the zombies. During the period, you found some survivors surrounded by zombies. You saved them and got their thanks. However, you soon found out that their intentions were wrong, and before they made a move, they suddenly shot, and the threat would be wiped out. Close black lens bracket. Day 4, you have nothing special to discover. Close black lens bracket. Day 5, you found a female survivor who jumped down from the 4th floor and was only slightly injured, and behind her, a mutant zombie was chasing after her. After observing for a while, you decide to help, and you gain the gratitude of the survivors. You judged her to be a high-quality teammate who could be absorbed, and gained her trust through her words. Close black lens bracket. The changes in the first few days were relatively small. Linen took a closer look and found that there were some changes in the details. However, from the 6th day onwards, the changes were very obvious. Day 6, you taught her basic fighting skills in the shelter, and found that her learning ability was only ordinary, but her body had obviously mutated. Through the loopholes in her words and your own judgment, you speculated that she might have mutated. After a simple test with blood and saliva, you judge that she is not contagious. Close black lens bracket. 7th day, you know her name, Zhang Qingshe. You take the initiative to test her ability, and discover that in addition to the improvement of her physical fitness, she also has a superpower similar to psychic power. Close black lens bracket. Day 8, you worked hard to study her superpowers and created a unique exercise plan for her, and found that her powers were progressing very quickly, and you began to think about how you could get the same evolution. Close black lens bracket. 9th day, you found a group of soldiers trapped in the supermarket. After you took action to deal with the mutant zombies, the soldiers gratefully invited you to leave with them. You did not completely refuse, leaving the contact information. Close black lens bracket. Seeing this, Lin An's eyes flashed with joy. In the previous simulation, Linen never established contact with the army, which was probably the reason why he made up his mind to be a lone wolf before yesterday's simulation. However, this time, with the help of the talented, wise man, he realized the importance of keeping in touch with the army in advance. Intelligence. Day 10, you killed mutant zombies together. During this period, you encountered a survivor who was scheming. You found out in advance that you had subdued the wicked without any risk, but suddenly found from his posture and traces that were invisible, strange signs. You left the wicked man alive, bound him and brought him home. Close black lens bracket. Day 11, by studying the villains who tried to attack you before, you have concluded a concentrated guess about the evolutionary person. Close black lens bracket. Day 12, after your severe torture and several tortures that almost put him to death, he mutated. Close black lens bracket. 13th day, you judged that he has lost his humanity, and that his special power has evolved extremely rapidly, and he is gradually awakening his wisdom, making a decisive decision and killing him in advance. Zhang Qingshe was a little uneasy about your cruel actions. You found this out and decided to comfort her, and the comfort was successful. You have a relationship. Close black lens bracket. The corners of Lin An's mouth twitched slightly. What can I say? Even if he became smarter, he still took this step in the end. That said a lot. Well, with her, it was definitely the right choice. After finding a little reason for himself to cover up, Linen accepted it with peace of mind. After all, Teacher Zhang is really beautiful and has a good personality. I'm not sure, because I successfully became friends with Zhang Qingshe today. Starting from tomorrow's simulation, I'm not sure if I took Zhang Qingshe with me on the first day of my simulation process. No, the start of the daily simulation completely depends on his main idea, that is to say, according to his current thinking, it is almost certain that Zhang Qingshe will be brought by him on the first day of the apocalypse. Even as a friend, Linen is confident. When the end comes, let her stay with him. When the end comes, she will naturally not want to run away. It is also just right, through the process of simulation, to see how Zhang Qingshe has successfully evolved. If you can simulate for a long enough time, you can also see whether Zhang Qingshe is trustworthy or not. The so-called time sees people's hearts. Even if the two of you are in love with each other at the beginning, there is still the possibility of turning against each other in the future. As for evolution, I seem to have discovered something during the simulation process, but in the end, I didn't create an evolutionary person. Instead, I created a monster with sudden mutation and was executed by him. Day 14. You used the contact information you left when you helped the soldiers to get in touch with the army outside the city. You took the initiative to provide some information, which attracted the attention of the army, said that you would confirm the accuracy of the information, and were willing to provide some information as feedback. Close black lens bracket. Day 15. You learned from the military intelligence that the current human society still maintains a basic order, and you are confident in taking back the city. You think they are too optimistic, and at the same time, you hear a shocking news. In addition to zombies, some terrifying mutants will appear among humans. They are similar to evolutionaries, but they have lost their humanity and become completely mutated monsters. Unlike mutated zombies, they need to evolve slowly. They evolve very fast. There is even a city. The mutants are completely destroyed. Close black lens bracket. Lin An's face changed slightly. Because, he suddenly thought of the previous simulation with the cold-blooded ruthless talent. After Zhang Qingshe was killed by him, he was resurrected from a dead body, and then mutated and killed him in seconds. Does this mean that now standing in the evolution of the human lineup? Possibility at any time, transformed into inhuman mutants. Asterisk. In the subsequent simulation process, after more than 10 consecutive days of calm, Linen died much faster than he expected. 32nd day, you noticed some abnormalities in the zombies. After some thinking, you decided to investigate and find out what went wrong. Close black lens bracket. 33rd day, after a sleepless night of observation, you discovered a battle between zombies and mutant animals. Countless mice and zombies fought a brutal battle in the sewers. The final victory was attributed to a diminutive mutant zombies. You took action to kill the mutant zombies in the bud, but you always felt that Fengmeng was on your back, as if you had caused some big trouble. Close black lens bracket. 34th day, a group of terrifying mice suddenly appeared, and they tirelessly attacked you. The small body and the desire to attack without fear of death made it difficult for you to worry for a while. Luckily you prepared early and bought some breathing time by setting the whole building on fire. Close black lens bracket. 35th day, you and Zhang Qingshe evacuated towards the army together, but suddenly encountered a group of corpses along the way. They were well trained and came from all directions, and it made people feel as if someone was in command. You were in shock, but you can be sure that you have dealt with a mutant zombie that can lead a zombie before. You suspect that someone else is behind the scenes. Close black lens bracket. 36th day, after Zhang Qingshe took the initiative to cushion, there was a wave of dead corpses. You leapt on high buildings through your terrifying physical fitness, and finally rushed out of the encirclement. Close black lens bracket. 37th day, you stayed up all night, but found that the zombies lost interest in you. After thinking carefully, you finally attributed the reason for the riots of zombies and mutant animals to Zhang Qingshe. They actually feed on the evolutionary. Think of it as the nourishment for your own evolution. Close black lens bracket. 38th day, you think that if you let the group of zombies and mutant animals evolve, it will only make things worse. You persuaded the army, and the army decided to provide an elite army of 100 people. Close black lens bracket. 39th day, you waited for the reinforcements, and after calmly judging that the mutant animals and zombies were not friendly troops, you patiently seduced them, and finally let a huge mutant python and the zombie group fight, and you took advantage of the fisherman. Judging the timing, you make a decisive decision and led your team to go out to try to find out the mutant zombies that are compacting. Close black lens bracket. 40th day, you followed the traces and finally locked the hospital. After the battle, you found a door leading to the basement and found your target in the morgue. You saw a female zombie sleeping, and you took the initiative to attack it. You are dead. Close black lens bracket. Lin An's expression was a little bit bad. One thing to say, I thought it was getting easier and easier to live. But as a result, as he became stronger and stronger, more and more details were discovered in the simulation process, and he died earlier and earlier. Why is there a group of zombies and mice fighting underground? Why did he cause a siege of mutant animals and zombies after he killed a mutant zombie? What are they instructed by? What is the purpose? Is it Zhang Qingshe, an evolutionary person? What does the evolutionary mean to these mutant zombies or animals? Linen let out a long sigh of relief and rubbed his eyebrows. Although there are many crises exposed in the simulation, it is not a bad thing to think optimistically. The sooner you encounter these troubles, the more time you will have to find the truth behind and solutions through the simulator. For example, the mutant zombie in the morgue in the basement of the hospital, I don't know it. Now that I know her existence, can I find it in advance and press it to death in the bud? Those mutant animals appeared 30 days earlier than he had predicted at the beginning. It's just that they were exposed later. Linen couldn't fall asleep left and right, so he simply sat up, took out his mobile phone, and started recording unknown things one by one. If we say that the simulation of the new day that starts tomorrow, it will start according to my thinking today. Then can I have a clearer target and obtain information in a targeted manner? Linen rubbed his brows and recorded the event on the phone screen with one hand. 1. Investigate the specific appearance time of the mutant animals, find evidence that the mutant animals have wisdom, and collect relevant information. Close black lens bracket. 2. Investigate the truth that the zombie group is being commanded, find the mutant zombies who really command the zombie group behind the zombie group, and try to kill them as soon as possible. Close black lens bracket. 3. Investigate the difference between mutants and evolutionaries, find the key to transformation, and see if there is a chance to give yourself a chance to evolve. Close black lens bracket. 4. Exclude whether there are mutants in the city, and find the difference and reasons between mutants and mutant zombies. Close black lens bracket. 5. Through contact with the outside world, such as the army, to search for various intelligence throughout the country. Close black lens bracket. Linen temporarily summed up 5 points, and repeatedly memorized them in his mind. When you start a new simulation tomorrow, you can see if your simulator can simulate it completely according to your own ideas. Moreover, today's luck is really bad, the only talent that feels good is the purple, mind reader. No way, the interval between each simulation is almost an hour. Even if he does it every time he refreshes, the number of simulations he has performed today is only a dozen times. Compared with yesterday, he could simulate once in 10 minutes, which is worse, a lot of. You must let yourself in the simulation go crazy. On the one hand, it is for information, and on the other hand, it is to shorten the simulation time. At least a few powerful talents must be added first, so as to ensure one's survivability. After 10 days, I can no longer consolidate my talents. I can only count 10 talents when I am full. I must increase the proportion in this regard. After arranging some ideas, Linen really couldn't fall asleep, so he simulated it again. As a result, the talent of this simulation was extremely poor, and he basically went back to the old way of the previous simulation, so he had no choice but to give up first. Sleep. In the early morning of the second day, Linen woke up from his sleep. He was no longer sleepy and decided to take a good turn around the county town. Try to find some new ideas. Linen, who was just trying to filter his thoughts, suddenly stopped in front of an alley after running for half an hour in the morning. A group of stray dogs caught his attention. What? In front of Linen, in an alley, a group of stray dogs were barking emotionally. Of course, if it's just dogs cracking down on fakes, Linen will naturally not find it strange, but the key is that among this group of stray dogs, one is obviously on the opposite side, and it can almost be said that he is besieged by this group of stray dogs. A dog caught his attention. There was a lightning-like scar on the dog's forehead. For a time, an idea suddenly popped into Lin An's head: Harry Potter. In a previous simulation, Lin An once harvested a special, seemingly mutated dog on the street and named it Harry. This dog is not as manic as other mutant animals, on the contrary, he also has goodwill towards humans. Probably this one. Hey, Lin An said, attracting the attention of the stray dogs. A group of stray dogs immediately gave up the idea of besieging Harry, and turned to look at Lin An, with dangerous wildness in their eyes, and a low, menacing growl from their throats. Harry, come here. Lin An looked at the stray dog with lightning scars and smiled kindly. Of course, this dog probably still doesn't understand what Harry means in his mouth, but strangely, he seems to understand Lin An's kindness. It barked a few times, and while the stray dogs were focusing on Lin An, it rushed from the encirclement to Lin An's feet. Instead, it stood behind him and faced the stray dogs who had just besieged it, shouted. A good dog fights people. Hey, that's really smart. Lin An gently tugged at it with his feet, made it lean back, turned his head to look at the group of stray dogs who were still reluctant to leave, and took a few steps forward. The stray dogs backed up again and again. One of them couldn't hold back, and yelled at Lin An and pounced on it, but Lin An just kicked it casually, and the dog fell to the side, screaming miserably, "Turn around and run." The rest of the stray dogs were not stubborn when they saw this. The wind was screaming, and in a blink of an eye, they slipped away along the alley. Lin An then turned his head, looked at the Harry, who was still calling endlessly behind him, and clicked, "Stop calling." Harry closed his mouth with a whimper, stuck out his tongue, and leaned up to his feet and rubbed against his trouser legs. Lin An couldn't help laughing a few times, bent down and touched its head. A mind reader can not only use it for humans, but in fact, for animals. Although he cannot clearly understand its thoughts, he can still feel its kindness. Maybe, if you can get the talent like the Beast Whisperer, that has been refreshed before, maybe with the cooperation of the two, you can probably figure out the thoughts of animals. As soon as this idea appeared, Lin An's eyes suddenly brightened, and inspiration came. If I can get a talent like a Beast Whisperer, is there a chance I can get some information from those mutant animals? Single quote. Compared to zombies, mutant animals don't seem to be so hostile to humans. In fact, whether it's the pythons in the building or the rats in the ground, they didn't seem to take the initiative to trouble me before I provoked them. Single quote. Only a few scattered things like rats and poisonous snakes seem to take me as food, but this is entirely possible because they have no brains. As long as they are living creatures, they are used as food. Single quote. On the contrary, they are wise, like the swarms of mice fighting zombies in the sewers, but they were targeted and attacked because I offended them for some unknown reason. Single quote. Tigers will eat people when they are hungry, but they can restrain their ferocity through domestication, and even drive them for their own use. Animals like this that have become stronger, according to their instinct, regard human beings as objects of predation. This is a very normal thing, not necessarily because their brains have also become violent, maybe just simply hungry. Encountering well, it doesn't specifically target humans. It's also possible that just because the animals got stronger, instinct drove them to broaden their diets. There may also be battles between them, which are completely different from the zombies. If you can master the ability of domestication and communication, it seems that some mutant animals may also become their own helpers. Lin An thought for a moment and became interested. In today's simulation process, if there is a chance, it is still necessary to see if there is any talent similar to the Beast Whisperer. If the simulator can really start the simulation according to its own ideas, then it will have another direction for testing and simulation. Wow! Harry rubbed at his feet for a long time, looked up and found that the human in front of him was dumbfounded, and called out twice in doubt. Lin An smiled, stopped thinking, and rubbed its dog's head. Come on, Harry, buy you something to eat. Harry half understood, but he still followed at his feet. Maybe it is a stray dog who became a monk halfway. A domestic dog that was accidentally lost, has not been abused by humans, and is a very close relative. I didn't expect you to have such a side. A familiar voice suddenly sounded in the distance, causing Lin An to raise his head. Why are you here? Linen tilted his head, and Zhang Qingshe, who was jogging from a distance, was breathing steadily and wearing headphones. She raised her eyebrows at Linen. Morning run, why are you here? I run on this road every morning, and this is the first time I see you. On a whim. Linen smiled and flirted. I can only say, it's fate, right? Zhang Qingshe pouted. The more she thought about it when she got home yesterday, the more wrong she felt. She always felt that this guy was not pure in her thoughts. Although she didn't hate him, she didn't dare to take his words to her from time to time. In order not to be coaxed into happiness by a few words, and promised him something, yesterday, he vaguely agreed to buy a few Miao Dao for him, which has already made himself owe a lot of favor to others. You must know that in modern society, there are not many factories that make such cold weapons. There are factories that specialize in customizing and making Miao knives that meet the standards. Most of them are private workshops, which belong to some unpopular enthusiasts to entertain themselves. Happy. Linen not only wants to lengthen, but also has requirements for material and weight, and more importantly, he also requires that it must be done within a few days and delivered to his hands. God knows how Zhang Qingshe, who has always been reluctant to ask for help, went to help him buy it with a bitter face. Let's have breakfast together for a while. Linen asked casually. Zhang Qingshe shook his head. No, I'll just eat it, there are still students in the morning. This Saturday, there are still some children coming to class in the morning. See you then, let's have a hotpot appointment tonight. Linen asked casually. Zhang Qingshe suddenly became vigilant. No, I'll just eat it at home today. Okay, let's talk about it later. Linen didn't bother at all, he picked up Harry next to him and walked towards her. Seeing such a decisive reply from him, it seems that he really thought of having hot pot in the evening, and happened to meet her again, and casually mentioned a meal appointment. This made Zhang Qingshe, who was a little vigilant, suddenly feel a little bit at a loss. She knew it earlier and agreed, hot pot. She hadn't eaten it for a long time. Linen really didn't have the time to tease her at this time. When the apocalypse arrived, he spent a lot of time communicating his feelings. Now, he is all thinking about how to plan the best interests in the simulator. For example, he decided to go to an archery club. Guns are banned this year. But bows and arrows are not so difficult to buy. What mutant creatures with high attack and low defense are encountered? A polished and sturdy javelin, or a good bow and arrow. But a good long-range attack. Quiet, violent, and matched to his growing strength. In addition, he also plans to find out if there is a place to practice guns. When the end comes, he can also get some hot weapons from the army. Maybe at some point, these modern weapons can also become his help. In 10 days, he's going to be a real killing weapon himself, omnipotent. Linen simply bought a similar dog kennel, dog food, and dog leash. By the way, he threw Harry to the pet store to take a bath, and cut his messy dog hair. Feed it outside to eat and drink enough, and then take it home after it naturally excretes. I really hope it can learn to use the toilet on its own, which will save a lot of trouble. After taking a bath, Harry's black hair smelled faintly scented, and the somewhat dull hair was smoother, and he didn't know what breed it was. It looked about the size of a golden retriever, but his whole body was covered in black hair. Not like a shepherd either, probably a bunch of medium-sized dogs. Linen didn't have time to play with it, so he simply teased it for a while, let it get used to it at home, and went out. 80% of the shooting clubs are out of play. Linen checked with his mobile phone for a long time. There are only 2 shooting clubs in his small county. If he wants to play guns, he can only take a few big cities near the high-speed rail area. Considering the time and cost-effectiveness of going back and forth, Linen decisively gave up gun training. Anyway, with his talent and the physical quality that is enough to deal with the recoil of most hot weapons, when the time comes to get the weapon and hit a few clips, it should be able to guarantee the accuracy. At the archery club, Linen practiced for about half an hour, and almost completely mastered the shooting technique. The so-called archery, the most important thing is actually the combination of hand and eye. Physical fitness is sufficient, the hand does not shake. After mastering the skills, there is basically no problem of aligning the head. The only difficulty is probably to consider the wind speed and gravity when shooting at a long distance, which requires a certain level of proficiency, but Lin An's experience in combat accumulates at an astonishing speed. In a sense, anything that can be used as a weapon, he will progress mastery at a terrifying speed. As for the bow and arrow, Lin An left it to the owner of the shooting club to solve it. If you spend 100,000 yuan, not to mention you need to get some bows and arrows, even the female boss who still has the charm can. Anyway, after getting the reply that things would be done within a week, Lin An went out to eat and drink again. Afterwards, I met the owner who was better on the internet before, rented a warehouse, and went directly to the gym to buy a batch of sports equipment. At a premium of more than twice, I sent these fitness equipment in on the same day. Simply exercising is still too slow for him to improve his strength. In the absence of battle, he is not suitable for unscrupulous exercise in a place like the gym. He can only buy suitable exercise equipment to the warehouse first, which can greatly improve his body rate of progress. This is something Lin An has only felt since he finished practicing the Miao Dao yesterday. Compared to simple push-ups and other bare-handed exercises, after just playing a few laps with the Miao Dao, his overall strength will be quite good. Promote. In addition to purchasing these things, Lin An also waved his hand and bought a lot of supplies online, such as stab-proof clothing that can effectively resist zombie bites, including gloves and a series of clothes. He even considered the risk of accidentally getting poisoned by snake venom like in the previous simulation, so he bought a professional gas mask. Even if he acquires any invincible talent in future simulations, these props can still be used by teammates. Evolutionaries may be able to withstand the virus of zombies, but the toxins of mutant animals are not the same. In addition, a series of items including thermal imaging, drones, etc., as long as Lin An wanted, he bought a few. In addition to training, this warehouse is his material storage warehouse. When the Doomsday strikes, if there is anything you need, even if you don't live here, you can come to pick it up. Medicines are naturally the top priority. As long as Lin An can find and buy them, at least 2 or 3 people's dosages are prepared. Rather than go to places like pharmacies and hospitals to search for medicines when you need them, it's better to have them all ready now. If there is any safe place to be found in the subsequent simulations, or if I have any new ideas, these things can be transferred at any time. Of course, all this is not without cost. The price is. Brother Zhang, I want to borrow 500,000 yuan. Brother Liu, I want to borrow 200,000 yuan. Don't worry, how dare I not pay it back? Auntie Chen, don't worry, I know how powerful you are. I definitely wouldn't dare to take the 400,000 yuan and run away. Well, the good brothers and good aunts in this county have successfully settled these trivial costs for him. With mind reading, Lin An can not only grasp the maximum amount of money borrowed by these good-hearted people, but also avoid all possible conflicts and successfully push his net worth to the level of 1 million. Successfully realize the jump from 100 yuan to 1 million net worth. Good-hearted people, if the Doomsday doesn't come in 8 days, don't talk about interest, you can double it. Lin An also sincerely prayed for his creditors, and then ordered 2 more motorcycles, purchased some fuel, and a generator, and kept them in the warehouse. Purely thinking of what to buy, for the first time I felt the joy of a girl shopping in the mall. Aren't I happier than the female anchors? You don't need to perform any talent, you can just swipe your Big Brother card to buy. Gee, no wonder so many people want to be an internet celebrity. When the dust settled, Lin An, who managed the limit time, finally completed this series of tedious operations before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then, he sat at the door of the warehouse, waiting for the things he had purchased, such as sports equipment, to be delivered to the door. While ordering a takeaway, in this remote place, he started his simulation today. I hope my guess is correct. This simulator really acts according to my thoughts before the simulation started. Lin An kept repeating the ideas he had planned in his mind, telling himself that when the apocalypse began, he was going to investigate the information recorded in the memorandum, and he must find enough information, and don't mess around just for the sake of his life, just died. Bring Harry and Zhang Qingshe with you in advance to see what their so-called evolution or mutation is like. Soon, his self-hypnotic idea was ready for verification. The number of curable talents per day has been reset. Close black lens bracket. Today's curable talent times 1. Open black lens bracket. Do you want to start the simulation? Close black lens bracket. Start. Lin An's eyes were full of anticipation, and he chose 3 random combinations from a circle of trash talents that he was tired of watching, and started a new simulation. Familiar lists slide by, and soon enough, the simulation begins. Day 1. For those of you who are ready for the end of the day, stand in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the temporarily rented hotel presidential suite, smell the fragrant aroma of the hot pot behind you, and watch the zombies emerge in front of you, calmly. Later, you found that the dog behind you, and your friend Zhang Qingshe, lost consciousness at the same time when the Doomsday erupted. You checked and found that the body temperature of the person and the dog kept rising, and the expressions were painful. Finally, you decided not to intervene, and decided to carefully observe the situation of the person and the dog while eating hot pot. Close black lens bracket. Linen only saw the first day, so he couldn't help but waved his hand and whispered, "Ness. Isn't this done?" That is, was this Zhang Qingshe finally tricked by himself with a hot pot meal? Hey, it seems that the mind reader that I launched when I was chatting yesterday was really accurate, and she really likes to eat this stuff. Soon, Linen put aside the useless distractions and focused on the simulation for the next day. This time the simulation, I am afraid, the harvest will not be small. Second day, yesterday's observation led you to draw some conclusions. For example, the duration of the coma is 3 hours. After the coma is over, you will fall into a state of hunger and thirst, and you need to add a lot of food and water. After that, a period of adequate sleep is also required. Fortunately, everything is back to normal today. You tested your friend and dog. Both of them have greatly improved their physical fitness, and Zhang Qingshe always feels that she has an extra hand. Finally, it is confirmed that she has awakened similar to in the ability of spiritual power. At 10 noon, the army appeared, you observed for a while, and decided to suspend joining the army. Close black lens bracket. The third day, you decide to hone your team's combat ability first. Close black lens bracket. Day 4, the training has begun to bear fruit. Zhang Qingshe has been able to effectively use psychic power to fight. Your dog Harry can also ignore the infection of the zombie virus, and can keenly perceive the existence of zombies. Close black lens bracket. Day 5, you led the team to clean up a passage to the hospital, but there are a lot of zombies hoarding in the hospital. You sensed the danger, temporarily retreated to recover your strength, and decided to come back tomorrow. Close black lens bracket. Sixth day, you found that the zombies in the hospital had signs of being commanded, and confirmed the real commander of a zombie hiding in the hospital. After thinking about it, you finally decided to go in and take a look, first to clean up the zombies in the way. Say it again. In the morgue in the basement, you found a sleeping mutant zombie. You carefully kept your distance, lit the morgue with the collected burning objects, turned around and ran away. Not long after you ran away, you heard a sharp scream, your brain was dizzy, and the hospital collapsed before you ran out. Fortunately, neither you nor your teammates died, but were injured. Close black lens bracket. Seventh day, you found that the wounds of the 3 of you healed very quickly, but you need to eat a lot of food and drink when you heal the wounds. Close black lens bracket. Day 8, you revisited the old place and reconfirmed the life and death of the zombie, but the hospital has been buried. You can't confirm the situation in the basement, but you heard the rattling noises. Close black lens bracket. Linen saw this, thoughtful. It seems that even among mutant zombies, there is a huge gap. For some mutant zombies, he can cut more than a dozen with one knife. There are also mutant zombies that can destroy a building by themselves. But the fact that there will be a female mutant zombie in the morgue of the hospital is already a certain thing. Perhaps, the real mutant zombie that can command this city is this monster in the morgue. In addition, Linen is also a little happy. It seems that this simulator is really simulated according to his own ideas. I don't know if it's because his self-hypnosis works so well, or if the simulator just needs a thought before he starts the simulation every day. Day 9. Your dog is barking non-stop. You have noticed its unease, and through observation, you have confirmed that the threat comes from the ground. You decide to leave the city first and go to the camps that the army has established outside the city. You, Zhang Qingshe and your dog successfully joined the army as evolutionaries and gained attention. The army has decided to take you as the leader and led an elite team to explore the truth of the underground threat. Close black lens bracket. Day 10. You led a team to investigate the sewers, noticed the traces of the activity of a huge group of mice, and finally decided on the layout to lure the group of mice out. Close black lens bracket. Day 11. You captured a mutant zombie, and took the initiative to let Zhang Qingshe and the rats retreat after a conflict. The rats in the sewers really came out of their nests, and your teammates who had ambushed in advance activated traps, flames and explosions devoured everything. But you are sure that the leader among them has not been caught, but the sewers have collapsed, and the rats will no longer appear, so they can only retreat first. Close black lens bracket. Day 12. You manage order in the gathering place, exercise your body, and your exaggerated fighting ability has aroused the worship of many soldiers. Close black lens bracket. The 13th day, you suddenly heard your dog barking during the inspection, and therefore found that someone suddenly had a fever and fell into a coma, and stopped a group of panicked people from killing him directly. A few hours later, another evolutionary person was born. Her name is Yin Xiaoxiao, and her awakening ability is very peculiar. She can use fantasy to create objects in the sky, or change the shape and even nature of objects. Of course, it is limited to dead objects. You marvel at this, and while reaping her gratitude, persuade her to join your team. Close black lens bracket. Lin frowned. The evolutionary people can suddenly awaken within a certain period of time after the end of the world. He fell into contemplation, mixed with joy and sorrow. The happy thing was that he had more teammates with whom he could unite, and he had a greater assurance of survival. Sad, but he didn't know what the evolution came from. Maybe he had some guesses in the simulation, but he didn't know it at all if the simulator didn't write it. More worrying is the mutant. What the hell is going on with this evolutionary and mutant? After the evolutionary's body is complete, it is possible to become a mutant. Or does it fail to evolve and become a mutant without humanity? If it's the former, it's still controllable. If it's the latter, does it mean that in the process of awakening and evolving one after another, some people will fail to evolve and suddenly become powerful mutants? The threat of the latter is too great. If it suddenly mutates in a gathering place and awakens some terrifying ability, it may destroy a human settlement in an instant. Linen couldn't help sighing when he thought of this, and continued to calm down and observe the simulation. Day 14. You communicated with the leader, obtained some information about evolutionaries and mutants, and learned that the research progress of the Jingcheng Research Institute is beginning to be effective. Close black lens bracket. Day 15. You explore the city again, but find that the city is quiet and strange, and a large number of zombies do not know where to go. Close black lens bracket. Day 16. You find that a large number of zombies may be dragged into the ground, and you have some ominous premonition in your heart. Close black lens bracket. Day 17. In the early hours of the morning, you were temporarily in the city overnight, and suddenly felt the earth tremble. You woke up suddenly, went out to investigate, and discovered that a large number of mice were digging holes in the ground. When you noticed that the direction they were digging was a gathering place, you realized that something was wrong and immediately asked for support. Due to the narrowness of the underground passage, you cannot enter the underground to exterminate the rats. Close black lens bracket. Day 18. You decide to evacuate all and join another army at the gathering place near J City. Close black lens bracket. Day 19. Your evacuation attracted the attention of the rats. A large group of crazy rats gave up burrowing, climbed out of the ground, and started a conflict with you. During the battle, you noticed a giant mouse staring at you from a distance, and when it found you, it turned and went back to the ground. You realize that the rat's intelligence is by no means inferior to that of a human. The large army moved slowly and was besieged by the rats. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, but in the end, the rats had the last laugh and you were forced to leave. Close black lens bracket. Lin An's face turned a little worse. These mice, why did they still hold grudges? Although he had long expected that the temptation of these mutant animals and zombies was not small, he never thought that these mice were planning to punch holes and sneak attacks. No, his own dog Harry is also a mutant animal. Why doesn't it show the greed that is unique to other creatures? If there is a chance, try to let Harry eat those mutant zombies, or the corpses of mutant animals. But Harry obviously doesn't have that tendency, and if there is, I'm afraid that the self in the simulator won't ignore it. To be observed. Lennon took out his mobile phone and recorded this. If all goes well, the fastest, in the simulation tomorrow, he will be able to find out the answer. Turning his head and looking at the simulation interface, Lennon couldn't help sighing again. It seems that today's simulation, unless some powerful talent is drawn, I am afraid that it will not last long. After all, the start of the simulation has been determined. If you want to change the start in the simulator and your initial idea in the simulator, you have to wait until 2 p.m. every day, when the simulator resets. But on second thought, it doesn't seem like a bad thing. Live as short as possible. Hurry up and give me another awesome talent. Asterisk. 20th day. Under the continuous pursuit of the rats, Yin Xiaoxiao was forced to fall behind and lost his life. Close black lens bracket. Day 21. You realize that the situation is over, but you also realize that there must be a distance between the group of rats and the leader, and you are dying to live, and you decide to launch a counter-charge. Because of the long-distance chase, the mouse didn't have time to get through the ground, and you finally caught a big mouse that was digging a hole in the ground to run away. Your dog Harry was thrown by you, fought with the Rat King, and finally paid the price with his life, and died with the Rat King. Close black lens bracket. Day 22. You and Zhang Qingshe found a vehicle and returned to the county seat. Close black lens bracket. Day 23. You decide to go to the capital with Zhang Qingshe, find the Beijing Research Institute, and find out the truth behind this mutation. Using the motorcycles and supplies you prepared in advance, you set foot on the road to the capital. Close black lens bracket. Day 24. Hurry up, but the process is not smooth, the road is blocked, there are monsters everywhere, and I can't walk 100 kilometers all day. Close black lens bracket. Day 25. On the way, your vehicle was destroyed by mutant zombies that popped out suddenly. Close black lens bracket. Day 26. You gave up your plan to go to the capital and decided to find a new gathering place for humans. Close black lens bracket. Day 27. Change vehicles to find gathering places near J City. Close black lens bracket. Day 28. Continue to the J City gathering place. Close black lens bracket. Day 29. You met a mutant on the road. Its power is extremely terrifying and it can control metal. Your vehicle instantly turned into a scrap of iron. You and Zhang Qingshe abandoned the car to fight, but at the end of the battle, countless metal shards are coming towards you, and you can barely protect your vitals. Zhang Qingshui's mind exploded, detonating the zombie's head, and taking you on foot to find supplies and medical resources, but you quickly fell into a coma. Close black lens bracket. The 30th day, you were half asleep and half awake, but in the end you were unable to resist a series of complications caused by massive blood loss. You are dead. Close black lens bracket. Lennon let out a sigh of relief, the worried look gradually disappeared, adjusted his mentality, and after thinking quietly, the surprise in his eyes need not be expressed. This time, the harvest is big. Obviously this time, compared with yesterday, there is no improvement in combat effectiveness at all. However, the results were quite different. Because the self in this simulation took action with the intelligence that was simulated yesterday, and killed all dangers in the bud. If it weren't for the fact that he accidentally killed the humans and the army in the gathering place ahead of time, and he wanted to explore information instead of living alone, he might not have survived for 2 or 3 months this time. After all, in the small county where he is located, there is a high probability that there are only 2 difficult opponents. A swarm of rats, and a sleeping mutant zombie in the morgue that can control the swarm. The mutant zombie can control the group of corpses, but it is like a bomb. Whoever wakes it up will explode, but the body should not be tyrannical, or there is no way to move casually. Otherwise, it will not be burned to death by a fire. This mutant zombie is probably really dead, otherwise, the zombies in the city will probably not be swallowed up by the rats without resistance. These mice may also reproduce or evolve rapidly by swallowing zombies. And that mouse is more troublesome. Lennon squinted his eyes and fell into deep thought. The rat's fighting ability is obviously not strong. It can be killed by a dog that he threw out. Even if Harry has probably evolved from the simulation, it is not only the perception ability but also fighting. Not great. But this mouse is both wretched and smart. As long as it doesn't run out of the sewer, it will be difficult for Linen to kill it. However, this time also exposed the weakness of the mouse. It is very greedy, and the control of the group of mice also has a range, and it cannot be too far away from the group of mice. After chasing him for several days, he was reluctant to let go of himself, or Zhang Qingxie, an evolutionary, but pursued him desperately, wanting to eat everything, and he seized the opportunity to kill him. If you know this in advance, you can use Zhang Qingxie to attract the rat swarm, and then use the greed of the rat swarm to seduce the rat king. Just arrange an ambush, and it can be solved in seconds. Linen let out a long sigh of relief, and his expression finally relaxed a little. These zombies or animals are indeed powerful, but as long as the right way is found, it is not difficult to solve. Intelligence. This time, Linen finally realized the biggest benefit of his simulator, whether it was the instant kill attack like the self-destruction of the mutant zombies, or the pitiful burrowing battle of the mice. If they encountered it for the first time, it would be hard to prevent. One bombed by mutant zombies, one died, and one was shattered by mice. But now, they are all just opponents that can be solved with a little trick. There is also the seemingly difficult to child, Magneto-like mutant who can control steel. Hey, just fighting it in the wild, how much of a threat it has no steel to control. Or to put it simply, take a sniper and give it a headshot from a distance. If the bullet doesn't work, just use a bow and arrow. The arrows are all made of bone. Can it be protected against? What I need to do now is to use my talent to enhance my strength. As long as I can become stronger than the group of mutant zombies or animals, I can solve these old opponents around the house and fight for the speed of growth. Sooner or later they'll be resolved. A mere doomsday, but that's it. After Linen finished speaking, he was happy. This can be considered a mouth-watering addiction. Please, give your child an awesome golden talent. While waiting for the cooling time, Linen couldn't help clasping his hands together, hoping that his European energy would explode again. However, after being in the dark for a whole day, he only got one purple talent, Mind Reader. In another simulation after the half-hour cooldown is over, it turned out that he really temporarily left Africa and joined the European Union and became the European Emperor. Just looking at this simulation, a golden talent came into view. Open black lens bracket. Doomsday simulator has been opened. Close black lens bracket. Current optional talents: storage, serious, schizophrenia. Please select up to 3 of the above talents and start the Doomsday simulation. Close black lens bracket. Serious gold. Your fate is unknown, and the fate of Sirius means that you are destined to accompany killing and plundering in this life. Whenever you kill, you will get a little gain, and may even plunder the opponent's ability. But fortunately misfortunes depend on each other, and you will also encounter more crises than ordinary people. Close black lens bracket. The so-called will draw the eagle bow like the full moon, look northwest, shoot the Sirius. I had already made a plan, like this verse, to resist the evil invaders, and to continue the human fire in the apocalypse. As a result, this Sirius is actually me. Open black lens bracket. Doomsday simulator has been opened. Close black lens bracket. Currently optional talents, omitted. The current talents are as follows. Martial God Golden. You are very sensitive to martial arts, you are self-taught in combat, your physical fitness is extremely high, and your progress is extremely rapid. Close black lens bracket. Sirius Gold. Your fate is unknown, and the fate of Sirius means that you are destined to accompany killing and plundering in this life. Whenever you kill, you will get a little gain, and may even plunder the opponent's ability, but fortunately misfortunes depend on each other, and you will also encounter more crises than ordinary people. Close black lens bracket. Mind Reader. Purple. You are very good at reading other people's hearts and seeing the real side of them under their disguised masks. Close black lens bracket. Schizophrenia. Blue. You have a schizophrenic personality, which has no consciousness, but can resist the impact from the spiritual level for you. Close black lens bracket. Scout. Blue. You are like a duck in water when you are scouting, it is harder to be found, and it is easier to get information. Close black lens bracket. When looking at the talent panel he selected, Linen suddenly felt a sense of accomplishment, a kind of happiness like unlocking the advanced picture book by playing the game. The golden talent of Sirius has just been brushed out, and it has to wait for the simulation to end before it can be fixed, but even so, When the 2 gold and 1 purple appear in front of us, even the other 2 blue talents that are used to make up numbers seem a lot more pleasing to the eye. When Sirius is fixed, in the next simulation today, I will be simulating with a full 6 talents. Linen couldn't help laughing. He really wanted to see how he would perform in the simulation with 10 talents in a few days. Let's start the simulation, and we have to see how Sirius performs in the simulation. Everything else was fine, but the last sentence of this talent made him a little uneasy. What is it called, fortune and misfortune? Does it mean that from now on, he will bring his own monster-sucking system? Only from the simulation to see the effect first. Day 1, for those of you who are ready for the end of the day, stand in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the temporarily rented hotel presidential suite, smell the fragrant aroma of the hot pot behind you, and watch the zombies emerge in front of you, calmly. You find out. Great, the simulation on the first day went without problems. The next day, you saw the figure of the army, but decided to suspend joining the army. However, suddenly 2 stray bullets hit your window. You looked at the shattered window and choked silently. Close black lens bracket. ... Linen didn't know what to say at this moment. All he could say was, stray bullets instead of grenades would be great. He still remembers that when he simulated for the first time, he was shot at home with a misaligned grenade, but it was really. The third day, outside your broken window, a flock of birds suddenly passed by, and suddenly they all looked at Zhang Qingshe beside you, circling for a long time, unwilling to leave. You realized that something was wrong, and sure enough, a large group of mutated birds rushed towards the room you were in. You were prepared and found a special bird in advance, and exchanged its life for minor injuries. During the killing, you seemed to be able to feel the improvement of physical fitness. Close black lens bracket. Linen suddenly got a little confused. Good guy, if it really goes on like this, Sirius' talent seems to be a bit too a double-edged sword. Day 4, you went to the hospital to investigate, but for some reason you were discovered by the zombie group in advance. When you killed a mutant zombie, you suddenly felt that something had changed in yourself. After you got out of the siege, you felt it carefully and realized that you seemed to have mastered a special skill that can improve your body's explosive power. Close black lens bracket. Lin An's bitter face finally brightened. Have you run out of danger? Obviously, it's hard to come by. As long as Lin An's goal is not just to survive, then the danger is obviously unavoidable. As long as there is something to gain, at least if the gain is greater than the risk, this talent can be kept. Linen continued to look at the simulated screen. Day 5, you continued to go to the hospital, and found a mutant female zombie in the morgue. You thought for a moment, went to the warehouse where you prepared the supplies, collected some combustibles, and ignited them outside the morgue. You turned around and ran, but suddenly there was a scream behind you. Your brain trembled, but suddenly another personality resisted the impact for you. You ran out with your dog and Zhang Qingshe, but the building collapsed faster than you think faster. You simply threw the 2 of them out of the collapsing hospital, and you were temporarily buried in the ground. Close black lens bracket. The ability of this mutant zombie turned out to be a mental shock. Linen thought that this thing, like Zhang Qingshe, was similar to telekinesis. After all, it could knock down an entire building. In other words, maybe Zhang Qingshui's own ability is not some kind of psychic power, but something similar to spiritual power. In addition to the ability to retrieve objects from the air, can Zhang Qingshe control zombies and the like? Linen suddenly became interested. Perhaps, the abilities of these so-called evolutionaries are far more complicated and interesting than he thought. It's just, Sirius is really fierce enough. He obviously has the blue schizophrenia talent to resist the impact for him, but he is not as good as the last time he was lightly injured and escaped. Instead he was buried in the ground. Day 6, while you were sleeping, you vaguely heard the voice of Shishi Suosuo. Suddenly, a huge mouse suddenly appeared, face to face with you. After a moment of silence, you suddenly took advantage of the fact that you had just mastered it. With his explosive skills, he burst out the power of his whole body, and completed a lore in a narrow space. After the outbreak, you fell into a little weakness, but fortunately, you seem to have some special ability. You can hear all the sounds around you. You judge, this may be a mutated mouse. As soon as your mind moves, these mice will take the initiative to appear and dig for you. Soon, you used the mutant mouse to dig out a path and return to the ground, and you actually mastered the power to control the group of mice. Zhang Qingshe, who was digging for you on the ground, was taken aback by you, and that night, you had a relationship. Close black lens bracket. As expected of me. Linen pinched her chin, her eyes full of excitement. The talent of Sirius is too fierce. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.